Do wholesalers need a real estate license to wholesale houses? Today, I want to answer the question, do wholesalers need a real estate license to wholesale houses? This is a great question and one where there is a lot of misunderstanding. I belong to a lot of groups, and this is always something that's coming up in the groups with new investors. Do I need a real estate license? Or people will say, hey, I'm wholesaling this or that, and someone else will say, you better have a real estate license, it's illegal, and all of these things. So I want to speak to this because I have been wholesaling homes for over 25 years, and I'm a broker, and I've been doing this, and I've done it with students all over the country, and I've spoken to it all over the country. And so I want to answer the question, do you need a real estate license to be a wholesaler? So before I answer that question, though, let me make sure you know what a wholesaler is. So if you're not familiar with the term, I love wholesaling. Wholesaling is a phenomenal strategy, by the way, and I believe it's a foundation to any real estate investor career. Wholesaling is when an investor like myself would agree to buy a property from a seller for the price that I would need to pay to buy that home, fix it up, carry it, sell it, and make a profit. Sometimes I can buy it even a little bit better than that spread, enough that I could maybe sell it to another investor who intends to do the same thing, and I earn what's called an assignment fee. The way that I would do that is called wholesaling the property. So I have a fully signed, executed contract between myself and the seller. I am now going to sell my contract, in essence, right? Legally, that's what I'm doing. I'm selling my rights and interests as the buyer in that contract to another person who is a cash buyer who says, Sharon, I'll give you $10,000 for the right to sit in your place and meet the terms and conditions of that contract because I want that house, and I'm going to fix it up, and I'm going to keep it as a rental. I'm going to fix it up, and I'm going to retail and make a profit, okay? That fee that I earn is called an assignment fee, and that's how wholesalers get paid. In that particular scenario, I do not need a real estate license in order to earn my money. Real estate agents and brokers, they make their money bringing a seller and a buyer together, and the seller pays them for that closed transaction when the buyer performs and there is a closing. So the seller is paying that person to introduce them to a buyer that performs, okay? A wholesaler is not getting paid by the seller. The wholesaler is not getting paid to bring a buyer and a seller because they are already the buyer. The wholesaler makes their money selling their rights and interest in that contract, in that piece of paper, to their cash buyer. The buyer is paying them what's called an assignment fee for the right to sit in that buyer's place, my place, at that closing. So in that scenario, the wholesaler does not need a real estate license. By law, the fact that they have an interest in that real estate contract gives them the fact that they have that legally signed, executed contract with all of the sellers on title gives them the legal interest in the piece of property to legally do what I just explained, okay? So that's wholesaling in a nutshell. Do not need a real estate license for that. Now, where the problem lies, guys, is that most wholesalers develop a buyer's list of cash buyers, and then they say, hey, wholesaler, to another wholesaler, let me take the property you tied up under contract and market it on my list, and I'm going to bring a buyer to the table, and that buyer is either going to pay me or you're going to pay me for introducing you to a buyer that performs on your contract, okay? So now the wholesaler has taken a position of selling that other person's property to one of their buyers on their list. This does require a real estate license. Okay, but the wholesalers in many instances, and I'm not saying all, I'm not stereotyping here, but this is what I see, are not licensed. So they are risking heavy penalties and fines and even criminal allegations for acting as a licensed agent because they're bringing a seller who may be called the assignor in that transaction. So he's got the house under contract and he wants a buyer. And he's going, yeah, wholesaler, I'll pay you if you bring me a buyer. Just raise the price, or I'll give you X amount of dollars out of my assignment fee if you sell it for this price. Bring me that buyer. Okay, so now that second person is acting in a different capacity. They are not the ones with an interest in that real estate contract. So I hope that that makes sense, because I know I kind of am trying to fit all this in here in a really short window of time, because I only have so much time for this video to actually sync and work in other online media. Okay, so anyway, so do you need a real estate license to wholesale? No. Do you need a real estate license to put buyers and sellers together for a fee? You do. All right. That's anywhere, guys. It's not just Florida, all right? But check into it yourself. Talk to actual real estate attorneys that are investor friendly. Sometimes you can question attorneys all across the country, and they will all tell you you need a real estate license. Many will tell you it's illegal to wholesale, and none of these things are necessarily true. Okay, so you want to make sure you're talking to an investor-friendly attorney who specifically caters to investors and knows what is legal and what is not, because otherwise you will get a different answer. So if I go to a foot doctor with a headache, I'm probably going to get a different diagnosis than if I go to a headache doctor, right? So anyway, food for thought. All right, thanks for tuning in. I hope this kind of clarifies some things for you and helps you know whether you need a real estate license or not.